Hi everyone, and a big welcome to our May 2025 Vision Talk. And it's always difficult to know how to do these things. There is so much going on in the life of Kerith that we could talk about. And across our sites, across our ministries, we could be here for days, like giving you an update on everything that's going on. But what I thought would be interesting would be to meet with three different people on our staff team. We've got Ben Oliver here with me, and then in a little while we're going to hear from Heather Pocock and then Callum Field, reflecting on different things that they're involved in. And I think there's a whole number of things in there that will be of interest to people. Everything from our involvement with 24/7 prayer, new elders, some sexuality conversations that we want to have in the autumn, our Farnborough building project, creation care. There's going to be a whole load of stuff in there. So hopefully everyone will find something of interest in this. And just for your delectation, the interesting things are spread out, okay? So you're going to have to watch the whole of it to get all the interesting stuff. But now I'm really excited to be having these conversations. And really excited to have Ben with me to start with.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, Ben. Now, I don't know how much people realise that you are the secret source behind Kerith. You know, people come to me and go, there's all this great stuff going on. And I'm going like, you need to talk to Ben. You know, Ben is the first person I employed when I came in the church and one of the best decisions I ever made. And I just want to say publicly how grateful I am for you, Ben.
Well, I'm glad. One of the best decisions I made to say yes to you.
Excellent. Well, we'll stop the loving. And really great to have you here. Now, one of the things I've got coming up is a sabbatical. And people may not know that. So from, I think, the 24th of June this year, I'm going to go away for 12 weeks and have some space and some time. And if I'm honest, I feel like I do need that. I've had a few moments recently where things have happened that I think I would just normally cope with. And, one of our big things as a church is finding rhythm in life. You know, that life only works when you live it with rhythm, and there's a rhythm to the day and the week and the year and the years. And when you don't live with that rhythm, stuff happens. And I've just realized there's been a few moments when things have happened and they've impacted me in ways that they wouldn't do normally. And that for me is one of the signs that, okay, something needs to happen here. I need to be in a bit of a different place. And you had a sabbatical.
Yes.
A couple of years ago. And we've heard about that within the team, but you've never really talked about that publicly. Just tell us a bit about how that was for you.
Yeah, it was a real gift. Thank you very much for sending me on it. A sabbatical is a time to stop your normal work, get some rest, well-needed rest, but also delight. Put some elements in there that you really delight in, that will do you good, that you will enjoy, and to contemplate. So it's a sabbatical, not from God, but to Him, to God, to spend time with Him, work on your relationship with Him. And so it's a gift, really, away from all of us looking at you, asking for, what do you think about this? Even when you walk into a room, you may have nothing to do with the running of that meeting. Really, everyone wants to know what you think and how you're reacting. And it's just a gift to get away from that. People that you dearly love and love leading. But there are some times when we need to be just under God's gaze, not the gaze of everyone else. And we can work on our relationship with Him. So that was the gift to me.
Yeah. And what did you sense God spoke to you about? Or was it just that sense of, just refreshing and contemplating and delighting? Or was there more that came out of it?
There was more. Yeah, there was more. First of all, we're on the right track. What we're doing, keep going. No radical change of direction for the way we're building in Kerith and what we're sensing Him saying. That was really encouraging. I had a personal question, which was, we've been serving together for many years. What does, I suppose, the final third of my career, if you like to call it that, what would that look like? What should my focus be? We look very different than we did when I first joined the team. So that was my question. And I really did sense God bring some answers to that, or some reassurance to some answers I may already have had, but He just underlined them. You're on the right tracks and keep going. One of those major things is developing newer leaders. Developing the team, obviously, that we work with together, part of the office team, but also newer leaders in all sorts of different spheres and walks of life. How do we grow them up to experience the transforming presence of God and how do they bring his kingdom into their workplaces.
And you've taken some real practical steps with that, haven't you? I know for the last year you've been gathering a group of young leaders, young adults. Just tell us about how that's gone.
Yes, they are an experiment. So just a small group, like there's 9 of us, and just drawing on some wonderful resources that we've been supported by about what it means to be a leader and some of the challenges we face, how God grows us up through challenge. I used to think that all leadership was always going to be up and to the right, and we'd only ever get bigger and go through better times. And yet the reality is you face some really tough stuff. And the learning was, or has been, that's when some of his greatest work, his transformation work, takes place. So it's that kind of thing. How do you handle that when it doesn't go your way in your setting? And that out of that group of 8 or 9, we're across 3 different sites. And people have been bringing their workplace, whether that be in business, whether that be in charity or social sector, all sorts of different ones, as well as in the church leadership setting. So it's applicable to all of those areas. It's just been great fun.
And you're about to launch your 2nd year, aren't you? And more people joining you and the existing people carrying on doing stuff.
Yes. We have a group interested who I haven't yet asked to commit, but we want to do that. I would quite like to do that for another year. And so there's an interest night coming up very shortly.
Cool. That's really exciting. And really good. Now, one of the other things that you love is numbers. And, love tracking all the numbers and where we're going and, all our metrics in terms of where we're at, which is really important for us as a community to know where we're at on a number of fronts. And we were just talking about some of the metrics that we've been seeing as a church, and particularly like over at Easter, which were really exciting. Do you want to just reflect a little bit on that?
Yes. I mean, if you were part of our Easter gatherings anywhere, you would have noticed that it was pretty full, very full actually. So I have been back to look at our numbers as far back as the current system we use to track them goes, which is back to 2014. And in a nutshell, what we've discovered is that Easter Sunday 2025 was, across all our sites added together, was the largest single one-day kind of set of gatherings, Sunday gatherings, in all of that history. So the total number of people that came to us is about 1,500. Slightly shy of that, but in Bracknell, they tell me they gave up counting because the meeting had got going, and they're like, if you're late now, I'm not sure whether to count you or not. So 1,480 were actually counted across all of our sites. All of our sites saw larger than normal numbers, which is very exciting on the one hand, slightly daunting on the other. But talking to other church leaders, also reading snippets online and so on, that is not unique.
No, it sounds, I was reading a report in the Telegraph this week of just, these, and not just in, like modern charismatic churches, but in the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, just record numbers, not just over Easter, but over the last few years.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. It does seem like God is doing something along the lines of what we've been praying for all these years. I do confess that with the running responsibilities, I can get quite anxious about him answering those prayers, which I don't need to be. And he reminds me that I don't need to be. But it's just wonderful to be part of something bigger than just us. And seeing that this is going on in many places is a hope for our nation.
I know I've been recommending people listen to this Justin Briley podcast. If anyone hasn't grabbed hold of that, and the surprising rebirth of faith in God. And he charts almost like the death of new atheism from the turn of the century with Dawkins and Sam Harris and people like that, doesn't he? And then goes, basically, it didn't give people any purpose. It didn't give people any meaning. And that meaning crisis, that purpose crisis is then driving people to go, well, is there a God? And they come to the conclusion that, yes, there is. And it's interesting with you doing your stuff around young adults as well. It seems like there's something really going on amongst the younger generations, isn't there?
Yeah.
I know we had an appeal in Bracknell and some spontaneous baptisms, and it was mostly young guys responding to that stuff, which I think for me, I haven't seen before.
No, it's brilliant. And again, that is very similar, indicative of what is going on in the nation. So stats coming in about people being baptized into the Catholic Church, overwhelmingly men, record numbers. It's happening in France as well. More people baptized this Easter than ever before in the Catholic Church in France. So many different denominations, lots of different expressions, but there is this trend, especially amongst younger and led by younger men, which is, that's the first time it's been like that in my entire lifetime.
Yeah. And it does feel like we're in a different season. I know lots of people talking about this idea of a quiet revival. You know, it's not necessarily like all the, you know, revivals that we might think of in the past where it was all over everything. It's just happening quietly. People coming to faith, people coming back to church. I just want to encourage us as a community to lean into what God is doing. You know, this is not a moment to be cynical. This is not a moment to, you know, step back. There's opportunities here. And I'm realizing for me, the reality is if this is happening in our nation, then it's happening in my neighbours. You know, this is a unique opportunity to reach out to them because they're going to be asking these questions. You know, the people I see, you know, just in the streets or at the supermarket or wherever it might be, we need to be just open to the opportunities that God is giving us at this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was exciting. I joked with my daughters on the way back from Easter day, just seeing how full it had been in Farnborough and in Bracknell as well. And I was like, goodness me, what are we going to do if this happens every week? Or if it does grow even more? I'm like, okay, we're going to have to turn everyone who comes at the moment on Sunday. You're now leading a group in your neighbourhood, in your house, in your home, whatever it might be. And you just leaders, you just come and we'll train and feed you. And my girls were like, well, that's brilliant. Definitely, that would be so exciting. Wouldn't that be fun? So really, it's just, guys, get ready because God is going to be calling each of us, I think, to help and lead these newer folks who are coming to know him.
I was thinking of that moment on the day of Pentecost when there's 120 believers in the upper room and suddenly 3,000 people get saved. And it's like every person is discipling 25 people.
Yeah.
And you think that potentially is what this might look like. It's every one of us getting into the game and being involved and engaged and a part, which for me is so exciting.
Yeah.
And just want to encourage people to be thinking, hey, what might this look like for me? And let's be praying that we really see this come to fruition. So that's really exciting, isn't it?
It is.
And, you know, we've talked about breathing in and breathing out. And if ever there's a moment we need to breathe in, you know, if we're going to survive what God might be about to do, we need to do it by being full of Jesus. You know, we're not going to do it by just having good strategies or systems. And I think, you know, in some contexts, it'll show up the weaknesses in systems and health in systems if suddenly there is a growth. And we really want to do this in a way which is healthy. And I think that starts with us being close to Christ. And I just want to encourage everyone who's watching this. This is a vision talk for you. This isn't just to talk about what's happening in this organisation that you might look in on and be part of. No, this is challenging you to say, hey, what part am I going to play? What would it look like for me to disciple a new believer in Christ? It's exciting. But it's funny when the thing that you've longed for looks like it might happen.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, you know, let's get ourselves ready for this.
Yeah.
Cool. A couple of other things I'd love to catch on quite briefly. One is around elders.
Yes.
And one of the features of Kerith over the years, and we've been served by this brilliant group of elders. We have three different groups that really lead in the life of Kerith. We have trustees who oversee the finances and all the ops type stuff that goes on. We have a staff team who actually run the church and make everything happen. And then we have an eldership team who are the spiritual oversight. And they've been a brilliant team over the years, very stable. You and I are both part of that team, but we're always looking to add to that team. And just to let you know about a couple of changes that have happened in elders. Some of you will remember last year we appointed 3 new elders to add to the existing elders were myself, Ben and Duncan Clickguard. And then we added to that Jackie Webber-Gant and Sherry Barrett in Farnborough and Matthew Tickle in Windsor.
Yep.
I'm right. Yeah.
I was just trying to think. Yes.
That is right. And Matthew's been brilliant, but he felt the pressure of being an elder wasn't helpful for him. Just like the weight of responsibility that he felt on that. So Matthew's decided to step back from eldership and he stepped down from the eldership team. He's still, with Tracy, very involved in Windsor and really integrated in the community. But, you know, we save everyone in our community. They're more important than what they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Matthew felt it wasn't helpful for him in that place. So he stepped down. And if you want to hear the full story, just go and talk to Matthew. There's no backstory here. There's nothing we're hiding. And also Duncan Clickguard, who was part of our Farnborough site, has decided with Sharon to move to Bracknell for a season and be part of there. So again, no drama, but just stages of life and feeling what's best. But for the last year, we've had 4 different people joining us. Do you want to tell us who they are, Ben? So
gosh, now you're testing. No. So great news, 3 from Bracknell.
Yeah.
Great news for me.
Great news for you because you have been the sole Bracknell elder.
I've been the sole Bracknell elder for a while. So that's wonderful, and 1 from Windsor as well. So Edward Izzet in Windsor, whom you've already announced and told the Windsor gang. And pretty fresh off the press, the Bracknell 3, I think we've just done that.
Just announced that last
which has
weekend.
Been brilliant. So we've got Ida, we've got Joey, and we've got Shola.
Yeah. So Ida Astley, Joey Harmon, and Shola Bamboy. And they've been coming to elders meetings for the last year, those 4, and they've been great, haven't they? They've really contributed, not just working. So all the elders meet together, and 1 month, and then the next month the elders meet with their site leader and try and really help the site leaders in terms of what's going on. And they've been brilliant in both of those contexts. Right. And, them coming for a year is an opportunity for them to see what Kerith is like, and also for us to see how they fit in terms of eldership. And we want to propose them as elders. And that process within Kerith is now we come to everyone who's part of Kerith and go, we'd love to hear what you think. Positive. And if you have questions or queries or, things that you're not quite sure about, we would love to hear those things. And if you have any of those things, I would encourage you, first of all, to talk to either the elders on your site or if you're on the island, your site leader. And we will collate all of those, look at them, and assuming there's nothing major comes out of that, then we'll be laying hands on these folks fairly soon for eldership. And then we'll start the process again. And I think we'll probably look for at least 1 person, if not 2, from Windsor, maybe 1 more person in Farnborough, and then maybe a couple of people on the island. So the first time we'll have some elders based on the island, which is going to be really exciting.
That's great.
So that's that. And then one final thing, 24/7 prayer.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've been on this journey for a long time now, really, which I can trace back to Jackie Webber-Gant and Penny Lander, part of our Kerith from way back, who are still part of Kerith, going off to a 24/7 conference in Vienna. And they came back, and off the back of that, we started a prayer room in Bracknell, and then Pete Gregg came and preached, and we started a friendship there. And then I got invited into various things with Pete Gregg and Windsor gatherings and all sorts of stuff. And then we've just grown, haven't we, in that relationship. Yeah. And along that journey, we've also ceased to be part of New Frontiers because of our position on women elders. So we've been thinking, actually, do we become part of this 24/7 gang? Because 24/7 is sort of like a movement in terms of prayer and, all the resources, Lectio and all of that. But it's also a gathering of communities, which is a bit more hidden.
That's been the most confusing thing to go. It's not just 24/7 prayer, Lectio 365 and all of that stuff, wildfires event. It's also a set of churches, or they call them communities, because they could be any size, up to something like us, down to, people who meet. I'm quite envious sometimes. They meet on the beach or in the woods or just in a coffee shop.
Like to do that.
Wouldn't it be cool that the whole church could fit in a coffee shop? So, yes.
We've been doing a whole load of different things in there. We've hosted Euroleaders, which is the European Leaders Conference, and that was in February this year. We had about 240 leaders, came from 17, 18 different nations, which was just brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, fantastic.
And we've also been trying to work out what it would look like to join. And a part of the complexity is that it wasn't very clear. So we've been in this slightly strange place that we've been helping form a community within 24/7 prayer, while also working out whether we would join it or not. But they seem very comfortable with that, and we felt comfortable with that. And you've been running some Lonely Together communities. Do you just want to tell us briefly about what that's looked like?
Yes, a number of those churches wanted to get together as leaders, to build relationship, to support one another, to pray and prophesy over one another, but also to do some workshopping on specific issues to do with church and church leadership. So we said, great, we'd love to be a part of that. And based on how we've been blessed through similar things in the past, we got to be part of leading that. So I think we've run 3 of them now, 3 out of an initial 4 we said we would do. We meet every 6 months. We use Waverley Abbey near Farnham, which is a wonderful location for it. And we've gathered on different topics, guest speakers, workshops, times of worship and prayer, as I said. So that's been a real privilege to do. And throughout that, we have got to know some of the leaders in other churches just in our little area of England. And so whilst we get to know a small subset of the wider thing that is 24/7 and the communities all over the world.
So we felt really good about that process. It's been really helpful for us as a community. I think we've really been able to invest. You did a brilliant job of setting the curriculum for that and hosting it and making it happen. And we're just about to explore the next level of what that would look like. And 24/7 actually have a process called the welcome process, don't they?
Yeah, I think they are writing it now, recording it, videoing it now for us to go through so they can tell us, well, what would it mean if you formally became part of the 24/7 Communities Network?
So over the next year, we're going to be going on that welcome process. That's going to involve elders, trustees, others, isn't it? And then at the end of that, we'll make a decision as to whether this is something we formally join.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So so just wanted to let people know about that. I think we feel very comfortable with 24/7 in terms of their values and, what they push us towards in terms of a deeper spirituality is really rich for us and really strong. And, relationally, we've really grown, haven't we? Lots of those people within 24/7 have become friends. People like Jill Webber and Carl Harding and Brian Heasley and Alan Emerson and the whole gang, we're getting to know at a deeper level. And we've also become really good friends with people in other churches within 24/7. And it's benefiting us, and I think we're benefiting them. So, just want to let people know we're on that journey, and we'll see where that takes us. So thank you, Ben. There's so much more we could talk about.
No, that's great.
We can't make this 3 hours long, can we? And thanks so much. And great to have you.
Pleasure.
Oh, Heather, thank you for joining.
It's okay, good to be here.
Yeah. We are both deep in the middle of MA dissertations at the moment, aren't we? So how are you doing?
All right, yeah. So my dissertation is on, it's on looking at faith and the 2 different kind of themes that you see in faith in Scripture, which is one that faith, the size of a mustard seed, can move mountains. So small faith has miraculous power, but also we see a theme of when you believe and don't doubt, that's when miracles happen. So my question is looking at what is the condition of faith required to see miracles? So,
fascinating. Well, I'll be interested to read that when it's done. Yeah.
How's yours going? What's yours on?
It's kind of right. Mine's on whether Romans 9-11 is a lament.
Yeah.
These quite complicated chapters from Paul. And I submitted my conclusion the other day. You can submit each chapter one after another. And so I feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And I was just chatting to Leon Johnson, who's also been on a 6-year, we've both been on a 6-year journey with WTC. Haven't we done a graduate diploma and then an MA? And Leon's done the BA, and he handed in his dissertation last week.
It's going to be such an amazing feeling when it's all done and submitted.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be good.
We'll have to wear our hats and gowns, Simon, and feel pleased with ourselves.
And just say for anyone who's interested, Ben Blackwell, who's actually my supervisor, he's now the principal of WTC as well, and I was N.T. Wright's research assistant, which is scary when he's marking my dissertation on Romans. He is like a world expert, and I think, what am I doing? But he's come to Farnborough on the 18th of May, isn't he? And
he'll be great.
As a sort of taster event. So I'd really encourage people to come and be part of that because he's great.
And he was our New Testament lecturer. He was really good, wasn't he?
He's great. Yeah. So come and hang out with Ben.
Yeah.
And you can spend time with him on the 18th of May. So check the website if you're interested in that. There's a few things we want to talk about.
Yes.
So you are our teaching lead.
Yeah.
And oversee all the teaching in the life of Kerith.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant.
Good fun.
And this year we've had this rhythm of breathe in, breathe out. Mm-hmm. And you have designed for us and crafted this preaching series that really takes us on that journey.
Yeah.
Breathe in, breathe out. So remind us, where have we been so far?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, and I think our last vision night, we spoke about in Mark 3, Jesus calls his disciples that they might be with him and that he might then send them out to preach and have authority. So the first phase was actually breathing in and being with Jesus. And God calls us to just dwell in his presence. And that's what he loves doing, that's our calling, to be with him. And so we've looked at dwelling in God's love in the Ephesians series. We've looked at how to hear God's voice in our How to Hear God series. And then we're looking at being with Jesus as the resurrected Jesus in our Alive series as well. And then in the second half of the year, we're looking at that kind of second calling of the disciples, which is to breathe out and to go and carry the kingdom wherever we go. So we've got a really exciting series coming up, looking at being carriers of the Spirit, and at Paul's vision of how actually when we carry the Spirit, that's the first foretaste of the kingdom of God and the first foretaste of heaven. And so that just incredible power of the Spirit that we carry, and being carriers of God's presence wherever we go. So that's coming up in the late spring. In the summer, we're going to look at emotionally healthy relationships and how we carry the Spirit to others, carry the presence of God in our relationships with others, and to kind of form the people of God and the church. And then in the autumn term, we're doing 2 series. One is on Jonah and how Jonah was a reluctant evangelist. And I think, I don't know about you, but I always think, there are so many ways that I could be a better evangelist. And you just see this in the story of Jonah in the Old Testament. So looking at what we can learn about evangelism through Jonah. And then back into the New Testament, nearer Christmas in November, we're going to look at justice and how to live our lives justly. So James, who was Jesus' brother, he was known as James the Just. And if you look through the book of James, there's just so much about his heart for justice and what it means to carry this God's kind of just presence wherever we go with us. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a really exciting year. I'm hoping that people are find it helpful and are challenged and changed by it, just being empowered by carrying God's Spirit wherever we go.
Yeah, I think it's been brilliant so far. And I think, we're hearing from Ben over some of this quiet revolution, quiet revival, which is happening of people coming to faith. And I think the opportunity we're seeing increasingly unfolding, those 2 steps are so important for us, that we learn to be more like Jesus. Yeah. If we're going to see this incredible outpouring of God's Spirit, we're going to need to be those people in terms of him. And then how do we bring that into the world? And thank you for serving us so well.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So also want to talk about something that we're planning on doing in the autumn. And you just realise in the world, the whole issue of gender and sexuality continues to be a huge issue. We've just seen everything in the High Court around the definition of a woman and, looking at all of that. And on a personal level, I was chatting with someone in our community, an old person in our community whose son recently just let her know that he was transgender and has transitioned to being a woman, and just chatting with her about the complexity of that as a mother, and sitting in that space and trying to get her head around it, and all the emotions that she was feeling. And we know that this is an issue which can be so divisive in society. And but we want to see people well equipped, don't we, in terms of how do we deal with these issues as followers of Jesus? And how do we think about them? So we've been planning on doing a series, and we're going to do a series in the autumn, where we're going to take some midweek opportunities to talk about this. And we've been working together on developing that series. Do you want to talk a bit about the heart behind it?
Yeah, I think people are seeing that this is such a live issue for our culture. And so really we're just wanting to train people theologically and pastorally in this. So what the Bible says about sexuality, what the Bible says, what God's heart for sexuality is, as well as how to equip people pastorally in their relationships, in their friendships, for those who are part of our community, who are part of the LGBTQ community. And we have this vision as a church of being a peachy community. So actually the most radically inclusive community on earth and in the cosmos, and that's God's kingdom. And but what are the opportunities for us as a church to be more inclusive to the LGBTQ community? I think if you look, in many ways, it's a justice issue, because if you look at the statistics, then rates of self-harm, rates of suicide, rates of bullying and harassment, they are far higher among this people group, the LGBTQ community, than any other community. And so if you look at the life of Jesus, he was going after after all these different minority communities to love them and to embrace them. And so I think in this series, we in this small group, really our heart is to look at scripture and to see this beautiful vision of sexuality that God gives us, and to begin to have a discussion. I think a kind and a faithful discussion where we're listening, where we don't have all the answers, but to explore what it looks like to become that vision, that peachy community, kind of extending the table to all types of people group. I think for the gay community, for people with people who have transitioned, or transgender individuals, it's a complicated place to be, church, and to be vulnerable. And so we want to serve that community really well, and get better at that, and have, all people who are made in the image of God flourish and create communities where that can happen.
Yeah, and it's going to be a really good opportunity to do that, isn't it? We want to think of it in terms of grace and truth.
Yeah.
As a community, we have a truth, we have the scriptures, and we're not going to be moving away from, I think, a traditional understanding around marriage and those issues. But what we do want to do is help people to think through the Bible for themselves.
And think theologically as well.
Yeah, I think often in church we've been in a place where people are just told what to think. And I don't think we live in a culture like that anymore, and I don't think that's helpful. So I think one of the things we want to do, isn't it, is equip people to think biblically and actually open up some of these complex passages, which have been disputed, and go, okay, what's our understanding as a church community of those, and why have we come to that understanding, and how might somebody else come to a different understanding, and what might that look like in terms of us engaging with them and working that through, and how do we understand truth, but also how do we understand grace? How do we love people like Jesus loved them, see them first of all as made in the image of God and cherished by him. And you did a brilliant talk I spoke at Euro Leaders, where we had all these European leaders come, and I talk about extending the table, and this heart that God always has to invite more people into the table. And you see that all the way through the New Testament as they're trying to work out what it's like to have Gentiles in this, basically grafted into this Jewish faith, and how that's, you did it brilliantly, of just, that's God's heart, isn't it?
And opening up, and I guess extending.
What are the different tables that God wants us to open up? And I think so. What does it look like for people who are living with a same-sex attraction to be part of Kerith, and to be, feel like they can be fully flourishing parts of our community? So and I think it's both for that community. We want the gay community to flourish, the LGBTQ community to flourish within Kerith, and to find home, to feel seen, to feel known, to feel a sense of belonging, and it's also encouraging, helping, supporting the community that isn't part of the LGBTQ community, how to serve and love and interact, and just to love that community as well. So I just want to name it. I think there will be some people hearing this going, oh my goodness, is Kerith about to abandon all its theology and become affirming, or whatever the language would like to be? Some people will be worrying, is Kerith going to become an unsafe place, on opposite ends? And our goal is to be neither of those things, but to go, hey, what's God's heart in this, and how does God view this? And I really want to encourage people to come on this journey with us. We're inviting the whole of the church community. So when we call this a small group, actually it's going to be around tables. We're going to do it on each of the mainland sites in the autumn. So I think we're going to start on the 22nd of September. I think it's going to be on in Farnborough on a Monday night, Bracknell on a Tuesday, and Windsor on a Thursday. And we're going to take that over 4 weeks, with probably a break in the middle. I'm encouraging everyone to come to all 4 weeks, really. You need to come to the whole thing to hear the heart behind it all. If you just came to one, you would miss out. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Yes. And I think our heart is we do want this safe place. We do want to be led by the Spirit in this. We do want to be pastorally sensitive. And I think we will approach it with real humility. We want to listen. We want to understand other perspectives. And, just have dialogues that are biblically rooted and full of goodness, full of grace.
And encourage people to come to this not fearful, but with open hearts to what God might say, wherever they would sit on that range of different views that would exist within our church. We all want to be willing to learn and to become more like Christ in our lives.
And I think one thing, so I had to do an essay around all of this, but one of the things that stuck out to me is that God's heart is that we live lives to the full and lives flourishing. And that is his heart for all people and all people groups. And so my heart is to see that for every person across Kerith, no matter their sexuality, no matter their gender identity, but that he came so that they may have life. We all may have life and flourishing life. So
Amen.
That's my heart off the back of these conversations.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be significant for us as a community. We've sort of touched on these issues in the past, but we've never really done a dive into them. And I think it's going to be really exciting. And then just for those of you on the Isle of Wight who might be worried, we're going to run it in the Isle of Wight in the new year and feel that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So one final thing, Heather, people might not realise that alongside all this other stuff that you do around teaching and preaching and training preachers and all the rest, you also help oversee our families team. And which has I've just been thrilled recently to see some of the things happening in our families team.
There's been some amazing stuff,
And I just wondered whether you might update people on what's been going on and just some of the brilliant stuff that's happening.
So we have an incredible prayer spaces in schools team, and they are they're in lots of schools currently in Bracknell at the moment, but actually there is more demand for school opportunities open up, so there just need more people going into schools. But one of the really exciting things that happened was at Easter across all of our sites we had the Good Friday Trail, and in Bracknell, with some of the schools that we had relationships with through prayer spaces, we opened up the Good Friday Trail and had 4 different schools come, hundreds of school children come around the Good Friday Trail and just encounter the Easter story and walk through it. And I know you were at the Windsor one you went to, and we talked about brilliant. Amazing creativity. I was at Farnborough. I was just talking with Joe, and one of the pupils from one of these schools came along with school, but then she wanted to come back and she wanted to bring her dad, and so she then brought her dad, who was very skeptical about church, took him all around the Good Friday Trail, and she wanted to become a Christian, and she was inviting her dad back on Easter Day. And so just incredible fruit. I think I don't know, I think the way of the kingdom is often upside down, and just seeing like children bringing their parents to church. It's just this beautiful, mysterious thing that God seems to do. So that's just really exciting. We have Kelly as well, who's our new Farnborough youth and kids pastor, and she is brilliant. She is. What I love on Sunday is seeing all of the children run to the bottom of the stairs at Farnborough before it's their time to go out, and then it's a race to get to children's group. They've all got their Bibles and their Kerith Kids notebook, and Kelly's doing brilliantly. She's really creative. Just lots of ideas. And then we've got wildfires coming up as well. So all of Kerith Youth, we're encouraging our Kerith Youth to come along to wildfires. And Jo Foster, who is our kids champion, she is leading the part of the Ignite tent, which is, I think, 7s to 11s. But she came back last year with just incredible stories of the Spirit moving and signs and wonders, supernatural. And she's really sensing that God's carrying something for that age group. So wildfires is coming up. I think it's going to be really significant again for all of our church. But we're really involved with the kids this year. So it's just exciting stuff happening.
And I love watching what's happening intergenerationally. I think we spoke a few years back about being a church of multiple generations, all of which would impact each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, that story of this young girl bringing her dad, but also just seeing the growing, you know, interconnection of the generations. I was preached in Bracknell on Easter Sunday, and I was a bit like, it's all the kids in, and I'm a bit like, oh my goodness, it's just going to be chaos and madness, and like, you know, why don't we just... And then we had this wonderful gathering, and at the end, it's the first time I've done an appeal, and we had children and adults coming to faith in the appeal. And, you know, all standing
beautiful.
together and then going off to different places to go and have conversations about faith and getting different bags because they're in different places. But it was just beautiful, this picture of this is what the kingdom looks like.
Diversity in the kingdom and flourishing for all,
And this doesn't happen anywhere else in society, but it's happening in the church.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, part of what people are seeing is so attractive of we're not dividing the generations, we're actually saying we've got so much to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's brilliant to see what's happening in that team, isn't it?
It's really beautiful, I love them, they're great.
Yeah. Hey, well, thank you so much, Heather. That's really brilliant to hear. And we shall look forward to seeing all of that unfold. The breathe in, breathe out through the year. We're looking forward to those series in the autumn, sexuality conversations, and then just seeing what God has continued to do amongst our families, amongst our kids, and amongst our teenagers.
Yeah, be great.
Thank you. Well, for this final segment, I thought it'd be really interesting to hear from Callum Field, our Ops Director. Took over from Ops from Gary Scull about a year ago now. So, yeah, tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Callum. I'm part of the Kerith Farnborough site. We've been there since back in when it was Sandhurst days, when it was at the school. My wife Debs and our two children, Felicity and Jessie. So we've been part of Kerith for a while. I've been on the staff team for about 8.5 years. So my professional background was in live events and project managing live events. And then I came on staff to take on the production team. And then that evolved to taking on the estates. And then, as you say, last year, Gary moved on. He trained me up well, and I ended up taking on the Ops Director role. So, yeah, it's been a very exciting first year.
Hey, it's been a really brilliant... You've just done so well this year, Callum, in just stepping into a whole lot of things that you know, been prepared for by Gary, but doesn't necessarily have direct experience of doing. And you've seen quite a few changes in the team as well in the year. It's been like been re-engineering. Tell us just a little bit about that. Who's in your team?
Yeah, so within the operations team, we've got about 6 different departments we'll go into, but we've nearly changed them all. All the managers have nearly changed in the last year, and that's hopefully it's not anything to do with me, but very natural. A lot of people have retired, but they just set us up so well. Is that I came into a department that really was thriving. The ops team was in a great place. Gary had done a fantastic job over the years that he had it. So it was really easy for me to take it on. And then we've just gone through this natural changeover of team who are ready to kind of take it forward to the next stage. So we've got Hilary in safeguarding, who does a brilliant job just maintaining all of our safeguarding across all the sites and assisting with them. We've got Paula, who's now in charge of our HR, alongside an external HR company that support her. She's based on the Isle of Wight. It's part of our Isle of Wight site, but is very much part of our staff team. Then we've got Paul James, who looks after our estates, who's doing a brilliant job raising standards across all of our buildings and all the different projects we're doing. Then we've got Josh, who has done our production team. He's worked with me for about 6 years. He was kind of the first person I brought on all those years ago and is now running it and doing a far better job than I ever did with it. So he's brilliant. And then finally, we've got Tim, who's recently taken on the finance manager role from Mike. So a lot of our people would know Mike Webber-Gant, who'd, again, done an incredible job over about 9 years leading our finance. And Tim's come in, taken on that role. He's had a brilliant start, and Tim brings a wealth of experience because he also works for another charity, another non-profit in the local area. So they're a brilliant team. I love working with them, and we're very lucky to have them all.
Yeah, no, it's been really exciting seeing that, just refreshing of the team, and we had people who've done brilliant jobs, but fresh people coming in. So one of those people is Tim, who oversees all the finances, and obviously that's one of your areas of responsibility. We know that's one of the key things we want to talk about as a church. Where would you reflect that our finances are at the moment?
So, as you said, the finance team do a brilliant job. We get monthly reports, we get all the details. And so we've always got a really good picture of where we are. So the start of this year, we've seen some steady growth. So kind of between 5 and 6% on our giving coming into our general funds, which has been an encouraging start of the year. But the reality is, in the climate we're in, just the operational costs are just ever increasing. So I'll just give you some examples. National insurance contribution, so that increased for everyone at the start of April. So that's an extra £36,000 a year. Minimum wage increased as well, and we're actually trying to do real living wage. So that was an extra increase for us to bring everyone up to that standard. And then just general services, operational costs, servicing of equipment, of buildings, the people we need to bring in, they're all experiencing these same increases in costs, and it's being passed on to customers. So we're just generally seeing everything increase, just the sheer operational costs of a church of our size across 4 different locations.
Yeah, we've seen that with the local authority as well, aren't we, in terms of rates? And yeah, for a long time we've had rates have been zero, haven't they, in terms of what we've paid?
Yeah, so as you've said, so local boroughs charge business rates on people who've got premises. We immediately get 80% off that as a non-for-profit organisation. And then for as long as I can remember, the local boroughs have then given us a discretionary 20% to basically null that out for us. And for the first time ever, Windsor have decided to put costs on us. That's £10,000 a year rates at Windsor. And then only a couple of weeks ago, we got our first letter from Bracknell, who are beginning to explore changing their policy for next year. And so we expect Rushmore, where Farnborough is, expects to follow suit as well. So yeah, we're just constantly getting these additional charges, which don't necessarily get us anything more.
No, but they're just adding to our
It's just
our
the cost of operating in the climate we're in.
So how are we doing within that? Obviously, we've got, you're saying income's going up 5-6%. We're seeing that steady increase in our sort of background level of giving, which is really exciting to see. What about expenditure? Where's that?
Yeah, so expenditure is really well controlled. So if you've been around any of our meetings this year, would know we've set like a balanced budget this year. So we're trying to aim to receive in.
Which is really exciting, isn't it? So for the last 3 years, we've had deficit budgets where we've known we've got a deficit. This year, you were able to set a balanced budget, which is really cool.
Yeah, but to do that balanced budget, we've had to be fairly ambitious in our expectation of what we can receive as income. So at the moment, our income is about £31,000 behind where we'd want it to be. I think at the moment when we're filming this, we're just shy of getting the April figures. So from the first 3 months of the year, we're about that 31,000 behind. But expenditure is £38,000 below budget. So at the moment, we're running at around a £7,000 surplus, which is great. That's where we want to be, in the surplus. But we do know that the start of the year is generally there's less expenditure to pay for, and it ramps up as we go through the year. So we do need to see that increase on our income. So giving is through one way, and I know we talk about that a lot on our sites and our meetings, but also looking at other commercial opportunities. Only last week, we've recently rented out 5 car parking spaces at one of our sites to a local business that we're not using, and that's extra £5,000 to us a year. So looking at other opportunities of where we can bring additional income in as well.
Yeah, so it stays a challenging time, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think we fair to say, we are seeing God in it all, and we just need to keep going.
Yeah, and we saw in March, we saw a return of some big one-off gifts. So we've got the regular givers who give regular amounts. That's usually quite predictable, which is fantastic. That's the real bedrock of our income. But then usually this time of year, we see some one-off gifts come through. And we saw gifts of 6,000, 4,000, 8,000. So it's brilliant to see a return of those as well.
Yeah, so we do live in an incredibly generous community, don't we?
We do.
I think we just continually blow our socks off when we see what people are doing and how people are giving. And we need to keep praying, don't we?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Doing all that we can do, but trusting God to do that all He can do. Yeah, so we're in the Farnborough building.
We are.
Building this, which is very exciting. We acquired this in 2021?
21 towards the end of the year, about October time.
I'll never forget that auction, online auction, where we were bidding for it. And then at the end of the time, it got down to 0 and said it's ours. And there was this moment of elation. And then this moment of like, what the heck have we done? But in that time, we've seen God do amazing things, haven't we? I'm just talking a little bit about just the mortgage on this place and what we've seen happen there.
Yeah, so when we bought the building, it was just shy of £1 million. We used some money to put a deposit down and pay off a chunk of that, and then we've done various things. But now we've got that mortgage down to just under £94,000. So less than a tenth of the price we paid for it. So that's just fantastic.
That's incredible, isn't it? And then we had about £168,000 of interest-free loans, didn't we? And we recently had one of those, about 50,000 converted just into a gift, which was amazing. Yeah. So actually, our debt as a church is dramatically reduced. Yeah. We'd still have that heart to get to a place of being totally debt-free. That would be our goal.
Yeah.
But there are exciting plans for this building, aren't there, in terms of developing it? I want to just remind us, anyone who hasn't heard those, what are those plans? What
I'll just touch on them briefly. If you go to kerith.church/Farnborough, there's loads of information. You can see all the pictures, the floor plans, much more detail than I'll give today. But yeah, effectively, it's a 5-phase project done roughly over the next 5 to 6 years. At the moment, we're concentrating on that phase 1, which is doing some of the big roof work and cladding work and some of the heating. That's going to be around 950,000, which also includes paying off those interest-free loans you mentioned. So yeah, we're working towards that. We've already, as a community, raised £215,000.
It's just brilliant, isn't it? And that's all come from the vast majority actually from the Farnborough community.
Yeah. Farnborough community, and then we've also had gifts from people who are part of other sites as well. So it's brilliant to see the whole Kerith church family coming together. So yeah, to raise that already, we only really launched that in September, so really kind of 6-7 months into that. So that's a brilliant start. Amy Horn's led a fantastic team of our grant application team. As of today, they've got 13 applications in for grant funds, which totals over £200,000. So we're just praying for success with those, but we just keep on marching towards that target.
And then we've also going to start talking to local businesses, aren't we? We're here on a whole trading estate, which is full of building firms. And I know you've got some plans to engage them as well in the project.
Yeah, so if you come to the Farnborough site, you'll almost definitely drive down Invincible Road, which I'm pretty sure every skill, trade and material we need for the project is within kind of a 500-metre span. So yeah, in the next couple of months, we're going to invite them all into the building, come and see the food pantry, come and see what we're doing with CAP and debt relief for Farnborough, and just invite them. Could they be part of it? Can they, whether it be to give funds, whether it be to give discount off materials or expertise, but wouldn't it be, what an amazing testimony is if the local community rallied to make this happen. It's all on our doorstep, so we're just going to try and tap into it.
Yeah. It's so exciting. And I just want to encourage people from across our sites to think about whether God is calling you to be involved. And I often talk to people on the Bracknell site and they go, hey, we're in this amazing building, but we realise that we didn't pay for this, that another generation has invested in this. And maybe there are some of you who would go, hey, I'm not part of Farnborough, but I want to be part of the vision of what God might do there. We're building this building that's going to be for the generations, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just going to touch this generation. Decades from now, people are going to be coming in this place and having their lives changed, just as they are in the Kerith Centre and we're believing for in Windsor. I just want to encourage folks, hey, is God calling you to be part of that? So one of the really exciting parts of this building for me is the whole environmental work that we're doing as well. And tell us a little bit about that in terms of our sort of creation care in this space.
Yeah, so in terms of our creation care, we're kind of doing 2 projects at the moment. So one is looking at Kerith as a whole, which I'll talk about in a minute, but specifically for the Farnborough project, it really feels like we're paving a new way. The more and more people we talk to about our sustainability hopes for this building, the more it's just not being done at this scale. So we're leading the way, but effectively we're trying to refurb the building in a sustainable way, not only in the construction and the materials we use, but also looking ahead of how it will run for the next 20 years. How do we minimise the energy it needs, the carbon it's going to produce? How do we get that really low? And one of the ways we're doing it, which we don't really think has been done before, is we've had it surveyed as it is to get a real understanding of where it's at. that's been completed, and what we can do from that is see where like the new build equivalent will be. And then what we're going to do is get as close to that new build standard, so that despite us keeping it all and not having to knock it down, which creates a huge amount of like waste, landfill, but if we could refurb it and get those stats really close to new build standard, that would be a fantastic thing to have done, and should see us well into the next 15, 20 years of really low carbon, low energy building.
And it does really feel like we're on the sort of cutting edge with that, doesn't we? Of, you know, multi-million-pound companies have to do this stuff.
Yeah.
People are doing it in homes, but they're really not doing it on the sort of scale of project that we're doing. And yeah, we're pioneering, aren't we, in that sense?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing from people we talk to. So you never always want to be the first people to do things, but hey, if we have to be the first on this, then fine. But yeah, it's really exciting, the conversations we're having and where we're heading with it.
Yeah, and just talk a little bit about creation care across the whole of Kerith, because there's a lot of progress there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so we've been working with the creation care team. They've taught us a lot about what we should be looking out for and what our hopes and dreams would be. But another big piece of work we've done, which is now available on the website to look at, is our energy and carbon report. So this is a report that's being done, again, you mentioned much larger businesses. They're actually compulsorily have to produce this. We're voluntarily doing it, and it's looking at our energy and carbon across all of our sites and our buildings. So you can go in there, you can see where we're at, how we're performing on certain things. And then in the next couple of weeks, alongside that report will be our energy and carbon reduction plan. So each year we're going to sit down with our energy and carbon expert, look at what we're planning on doing this year, what are our initiatives, set some goals where we want to see our energy and carbon come down to, and then try and achieve those. So we've already done a load of work this year. We've replaced a load of lighting around the office areas of the Kerith Centre. In the Kerith Centre auditorium, we're about to be a huge project to replace all the main house lighting. So that straight away is going to reflect in our energy usage. But we'll make that available for everyone to see, full transparency, how we're getting on. We'll review it each year, and hopefully just year on year, it's going to reduce and reduce and reduce. And in 5 years' time, we'll be able to look at it and go, yeah, we're really pleased with the changes we've made, and we haven't stood still. We've kept making those changes, and it's expensive. Those capital investments are really expensive. Buying a load of solar is really expensive. So we're looking out for grants. We're looking out of how we can fund it, but it's just all about just keep moving in the right direction with it.
Well, you're just doing a brilliant job, Callum. And I always am amazed at all these different plates that you are spinning and keeping move forward. And yeah, really grateful for you and all that you bring. Yeah. So I just want to thank you for being part of this vision conversation. It has been so good being together. It's been wonderful to hear from Ben and from Heather and from Callum. Just such a variety of things going on. I realise there are so many other things that we could have talked about. You know, we could have gone around the sites and talked about how God is moving in Bracknell and Farnborough and Windsor and the Isle of Wight. We could have talked about our Revive ministries and so much exciting stuff that's happening there. We could have talked about, you know, overseas, just so many things that are going on. But hopefully that gave you a little snapshot of what's going on. And I just want to encourage you to play your part in all of this. And being part of our community, getting involved, getting engaged, praying. Was reminded of a brilliant prophetic word recently that John Hume brought from our Bracknell site. And from that verse in Zechariah where it says, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. I want to remind you that everything we've talked today is about a move of God's Spirit behind it all. That if God's Spirit isn't with us, then none of this is going to happen. And John had this sense that a fuse had been lit behind God moving in our nation, and that we were going to keep that fuse burning, one of those old-fashioned fuses leading up to a powder keg. And we were going to keep that fuse burning as we prayed and as we sought God. And eventually that fuse was going to reach the powder keg, and we were going to see the move of God that we all long for. And as we've heard earlier on, I think we've already begun to see that move of God. It's a quiet revolution, but God is at work in our nation. And I want to encourage all of us to continue to breathe in, to be more of Jesus where we are, to just engage more with him, spend more time with him, grow more like him in our relationship, and then breathe out, to be Jesus to the people in our families, our communities, our streets, our workplaces, our schools, our colleges, wherever we are. And as we do that, we will see God's kingdom come and his will being done. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been brilliant to have you. Have a great rest of your day and hopefully catch you soon.